Well, hello, that's me again. Today is June 18th, 2025. It is Wednesday, and I think so. Yeah, it is Wednesday. And what can I say? What you see in the beginning, it is a visual representation of the lack of effectiveness of the all kinds of the air defense or anti-ballistic missile or anti-missile defense, which you have in Israel, and it's definitely not very performing not very well. And that is pretty much explanation of how it works. They see something coming. Evidently, they have ability to see some ballistic missiles coming with a pretty high speed. I mean, make no mistake, when you see in the ballistic missile and explanation that, for example, air defense complex can shoot down missiles with the range of launch. Make no mistake, this is not the range of the missile itself necessarily. It's up to the range of the from which the missile could be shot and at the air defense or anti-ballistic missile complex. And the range here explains just why it basically it's the property of the air defense complex, which in this case also explains to you that the longer the trajectory, the longer the range from which the ballistic missiles can be shot, the higher the speed of the entrance in the atmosphere. And here you can see yourself that they see something, they shoot at it, they obviously do not have necessarily firing solution, or if they have the firing solution and are able to track and capture their target and develop firing solution, it's by far not all of them. And as the result, we see constant attacks of Iran against the Israeli targets, and they are not coping that well. It is, make no mistake, it is absolutely natural for Israel to actually forbid which still it's violated constantly. People post all those videos. That's how I get my videos. They post those videos on the internet, and but it's militarily it's justified. Obviously, no country wants to see the enemy and see what it is hitting. So, but it is what it is, and as you can see yourself, this is essentially this is the foundation of Israeli defense policy against any kind of the serious enemy. This is, yeah, it's United States, and as the result, Mr. Trump, who we can absolutely confidently state that he is absolutely incompetent man, he has to face this reality. Let me show you first reality in terms of numbers. We're gonna go back to the Lanchester, Osipov-Lanchester model of the attrition, but it's not directly applicable here, but still it explains to you the dynamics of the numbers. And if you take a look at one of the graphs which, basically illustrates the attrition model, you can see yourself that depending on the, you see, blue army, red army, depending on the combat effectiveness of those armies, in this particular case, they are air defense systems, and what can I say? You can see yourself that depending on the circumstances, you either can start with a much larger number of something, but then you will go down. And as you can see yourself, you're gonna lose. While the obviously the red army, army which is drawn in the red color, it will lose too, but will continue and eventually will win. This is one of the scenarios. There are many scenarios. And what we have now this situation which Mr. Trump has to cope with. And we can go and to Washington Post. And keep in mind, there are no serious military and air defense experts in the United States, let alone in the mass media in the West, which are consulted by people who have no clue, essentially, because they never fought real war. They don't understand what real war is. And so here we have that Washington Post today says that The intensity of Iran barrage seems to be waning as it used up its stock. Israel, meantime, is running through its supply of expensive missile interceptors. Well, you have to keep in mind, this is Washington Post. It doesn't have real serious sources, and the only thing they can do, they suck in propaganda from Israelis as they do their propaganda from Ukrainians, for example, and they continue to present the picture which is completely distorted. But even they, well, you can find the kernels of truth even among these clowns who are, well, so to speak, try to inform people that even so, Israeli analysts caution that more than half of Iran's arsenal remains intact and an unknown quantity of missiles may be hidden in the underground depots. Again, if they try to rely on the Israeli analysts, I have a bridge to sell them because Israelis do not understand modern air defense. They do not understand basically what real war is, and I just demonstrated to you what is the foundation of the defense policies of Israel. It is, well, trying to suck the United States in. And so they said, well, yeah, and while Israel has significantly degraded Iran's attack capabilities, again, that's Israel says, but yeah, sure. And mounting a defense has been costly for Israel. The Marker, a leading Israeli financial newspaper, reported that the missile defense cost Israel as much as 1 billion shekels, or roughly 285 million a night. Well, sure. So, though we have to keep in mind, anybody who tries to present monetary measure of anything while the fight is ongoing, they have to, their head checked for the reasons of being absolute nincompoops. However, and here they get the kernel of truth. Without resupplies from the United States or greater involvement by the US forces, some assessment project Israel can maintain its missile defense for 10 or 12 more days if Iran maintains a steady tempo of attacks, says an individual briefed on US and Israeli intelligence assessments. And what can I say? We know United States and Israel, they do not have real strategic forecasting as actually the art, as the craft. They also are not very good at mathematics, as it turned out. We know this, as the special military operation demonstrated it absolutely completely. And even the Washington Post has to admit that, oh yeah, if they maintain this tempo of the attacks. And they, for some reason, decide that if Iran reduced the tempo of the attacks, that means the number of the missiles per unit of time hitting Israel somehow is indication of its running out of its missiles. No, it means absolutely nothing. And you saw yourself what is happening with special military operation. Remember, Russia was supposed to run out of missiles in 2022. Granted, Iran economically and in terms of military industry is not Russia, definitely, but I'm pretty sure they are not stupid in Iran, and they know how to actually vary the type of the tempo of the operations, seeing how the Israeli air defense reacts, and it doesn't react that well. Israel is being pummeled absolutely into utter submission, and we're not talking about only Tel Aviv. I feel sorry, obviously, for civilians on both ends of the conflict. Make no mistake. I'm not some giddy fanboy who, pardon my French, masturbate to pictures of the utter destruction, and people, including Israelis, who have to basically live now on the ground. But then again, they voted for Netanyahu government, and Netanyahu government is, as we already saw yourself, the only thing they can do is they can own the United States, which is of course the slap bitch of Israel. And Mr. Trump, who is utterly incompetent as the president of the United States, and we suddenly now begin to see that he acts out like the man under a lot of pressure and completely confused. And this is not just the age. People who, with the extreme narcissism, which is, of course, the type of the mental, if not illness, the mental impediment, if you wish. So suddenly we have this. So, and I don't know even how to really comment on this, because first, he produces those hectic, almost hysterical tweets. Unconditional surrender, okay. Dude, you are the president of the United States. You have things to attend to. But no, he writes this in all caps. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. So he promises to kill, supreme leader of Iran. Good. So, well, there we go. We have now those things happening. And as the result, we have the first situation which is tells you that the guy is a complete moron. And this is, I mean, you have to be a complete cretin to go out and parade yourself as such that the whole world gasps when you're the chief of the director of the national intelligence tells you that actually Iran simply doesn't have a serious nuclear program and they are not about to make the nuclear bomb. I'm pretty sure that at some point of time they will decide to go and make it, but I don't care what she said. That's what Mr. Trump dismisses Tulsi Gabbard. I don't care what she said. This is the guy who is supposed to base his assessments and his conclusions on his intelligence people. Granted, we know that US intelligence or the higher level of the US intelligence was always there, basically nothing more than the cabal of the manipulative hacks who wouldn't understand the first thing about war, and they are all corrupted by the Israeli interests. But you are the president of the United States. You are dismissing publicly your director of the national intelligence. And so he says, I think Iran were very close to having them, the nuclear weapons. It's absolute panopticon. It is a circus. And I don't know, didn't he have enough humiliation with this so-called parade, which the whole world laughed at? I didn't do, and I didn't review it, simply out of the respect for accomplishments of the US Army, which it did have at some point of time. Not obviously as of lately. But I mean, even I, with my corporate solidarity, so to speak, I cannot ignore this anymore. The guy doesn't understand what he's dealing with. He's absolutely lost, and that tells you everything you need to know. He learned absolutely nothing. He surrounded himself with all kinds of the warmongers, morons, incompetent hacks who are on the service of Israel. Essentially, if not Israel, then they are on service of something else, of military-industrial complex interests and such, like Kellogg, the guy who won't understand actually battalion from brigade and the modern warfare. And he's a general. American generals are like that. At least most of them are. And evidently those people, those professionals who understand what is going on and try to inform Trump about the reality, not only they're not allowed anywhere near the levels of power, they are outright dismissed, like was the case with Tulsi Gabbard. What should Tulsi do? I'm in no position to suggest anything, but I think there was already actually some kind of the statement from her. I could be wrong. If not, you will correct me. So don't, just don't quote me on that. But she evidently stated that if United States gets involved directly, United States already is involved indirectly into the war with Iran, she will quit. And I think that will be the honorable thing to do, and essentially say that, yeah, that will be admission that Trump is a nincompoop. The guy is a showman. He even by his verbiage, even by his reflexes, this is a man-child. This is the guy with the God complex, while not understanding the first thing about modern world, modern warfare, modern economy, and that's what we have. He is totally under control of the Israeli forces in the United States. And what can I say? Now, we have also the situation happening that well, he obviously so out of it that Mr. Peskov had to react today. Mr. Trump already stated that he spoke about Mr. Putin with Mr. Putin yesterday, which it was actually, I believe, the last week. However, Mr. Peskov kind of, softened the fall, saying that Peskov called Trump's statement about yesterday's conversation with Putin figurative. And he said that the statement of US President Donald Trump about yesterday's conversation with Russian leader Vladimir Putin is figurative. Russian president spokesperson stated, "It was he who figuratively said, now life is so full of events that a retrospective of a few days is yesterday." So yeah, it's a softball for Trump, but it tells you everything you need to know. He's simply his RAM, random access memory, not the hard drive. He probably still have the hard drive functioning, but his RAM is actually giving up on him. And this is not just dementia. No, he obviously have the some signs of the onset of senility, but he is way above obviously Mr. Biden, who was a walking corpse basically. He was a zombie controlled by his family and by a bunch of the crooks around him. Mr. Trump still is in control of his body and most of his mental functions, but you can see yourself that he is reacting like no statesman would ever would. And this is really the thing which begins to push many people, not me, saying, are we at the end of the American empire? I have news. We are not at the end. The American empire is done. It's just a matter of if Mr. Trump wants to really get involved directly with Iran, which obviously is anticipating that United States will get involved. And then we have, tens of thousands of American troops in all kinds of the bases around the region, all of which are reachable by the Iranian missiles, and of course United States doesn't have viable air defense or anti-ballistic missile defense, let alone about missiles which have a longer range, they have a very good acceleration of boost phase, and they approach the terminal with the hypersonic speeds which no American or for that matter Israeli air defense complexes can intercept, and the effectiveness of those have been dismal. It was absolutely just dismal. And that brings us to another piece of the very interesting part of the military porn, if you wish. There is a interesting exhibition, if you wish, MilX, which is happening right now in Belarus, in Minsk. So, and the magazine National Defense 2 days ago talked about, Russians, obviously, Almaz-Antey, legendary Almaz-Antey presents all kinds of the military equipment there, especially, and Almaz-Antey, obviously, its specialization air defense complexes. And so they talk about this, basically, exhibition and what is presented there. And here is a very interesting bit which has been stated by people from the Almaz-Antey. If we're talking about the special military operation, then here's another interesting detail. The S-400 is so far the only anti-aircraft missile system in the world that has shot down in real combat and not during tests interceptor missiles of Western air defense systems flying at a close to hypersonic speed. And first of all, we're talking about the widely publicized American Patriot PAC-3 complexes. Moreover, there are already more than 10 such combat episodes. And this thing actually, how to put it politely, it's shocking in many respects. Why it is shocking? The reason it is shocking that the fastest missiles that United States has, bar, intercontinental ballistic missiles with those ranges, which are very, very long, let's say from 6,000 to 11,000 kilometers, depending on the type of the missiles and trajectory they use, but they do accelerate to about Mach 20 if we talk about them flying in the space. But yeah, they approach the targets, being the MIRVs, multiple independent reentry vehicles, with a very high speeds, which are characteristics of the intercontinental ballistic missiles. But no, the actual tactical operational level missiles, the fastest missiles that United States are actually interceptor missiles, such as the missiles from the Patriot PAC-3 complex. So they start, obviously, they have a very short very short boost phase, and they accelerate for a very short time at the speeds close under Mach 5, but still very close to the hypersonic speeds, because inevitably once the boost phase is over, the missile essentially just flies on the inertia and maneuvers in accordance to whatever they have the flight planned, and if it can basically operate in the semi-active or active mode, and it's very speedy in this respect. So S-400 begins to shoot them down. And it begins to shoot it down from a very long distances, because majority of the Patriot PAC-3s are located around large cities in Ukraine, and that tells you everything you need to know about not only the capabilities of the S-400 but also about the ranges, which we know are many hundred kilometers. So make your own conclusions what Russians are doing in this respect, and that is why, as I spoke about this in the last video, more than 80,000 aerial targets have been shot down during special military operation by Russian air defense. 7,500 of those targets have been advanced high-speed ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, what have you, and so that's the dramatic contrast with what we are observing now in Israel. And this is not to say that they do not shoot down something. They certainly do. But the problem is, of course, the effectiveness is extremely low. And as the result, we have now the cases, not only the people, not only in Tel Aviv, all over, in Israel, living underground in the underground parking lots, in shopping malls, in whatever they can do, to find any kind of shelter. And actually, there are many cases now, for example, of immigrants. In this particular case, we can see the Ukrainian immigrant. She's probably thinks that she's Jewish. Well, I'm not sure she's Jewish, but she's Ukrainian. And she complains that actually, because they're immigrants, they have been turned down and not allowed into the bomb shelters. That tells you something about people, doesn't it? And she's not alone. All kinds of immigrants, especially people who do not like Jews or Europeans, they have been turned away from the bomb shelter under all kinds of pretexts. That's pretty much explains to you why, there are many, how to say it, reservations about the fate of the Israeli civilians, as much as I really have sympathy, but they are getting it because they were cheering and applauding when actually they were killing their civilians. Well, let's put it this way, Gaza, should I go any further, which is essentially genocide. I'm not going to go into the, intellectual properties of those people who actually how to say it, they celebrated in Gaza the fall of the Assad's government, but you know what? Truth is, civilians have been killed wholesale, and they continue to be killed in Gaza, but now suddenly everything changes, and we have the Israel basically begging for the United States to interfere, and they control Trump. They really manipulate the guy who is not very bright. He's not very bright. That's the thing which we have to keep in mind, and it's just gets even worse, because Mr. Trump facing some rather unexpectedly bad situation for him, because as you can see yourself, there was a poll. There was a poll at YouGov.com, and it was conducted in 2024, and what can I say? This is what you have to keep in mind, and but this poll is the latest one, is from June 13, June 16, 2025, and it was also evidently from Economist. As you can see yourself, overall, Americans, US adult citizens, they don't want any kind of war. Democrats, 65% of them, they don't want any more. Independents, 61% don't want any more. 53% of Republicans don't want this anymore. And as our good friend Garland Nixon spoke about yesterday when speaking to George Galloway, he very well pointed out extremely astutely one thing. once Mr. Trump gets into the war, in the shooting war with Iran, let alone when, God forbid, body bags of the American servicemen will begin to flow on, on the shores of the United States, MAGA, which is actually very unhappy with what Trump is doing, MAGA will disintegrate, and he is absolutely correctly stated that Trump will be eaten alive by. Well, we know that GOP, the Republicans, much of the party is completely controlled by AIPAC, and you have those Christian Zionist fanatics there. So, yeah, he will be done. He could be impeached, or in the end, he would be, who knows? He will end up behind bars. There are many people who are military war criminals and fanatics in Congress, such as Lindsey Graham and other kind of the human trash there, who would love nothing more than see Trump actually see his political and maybe even physical death. So who knows? I don't know. We can only sit here and pretend that we can deduce something from what we're observing, while in reality what we're observing irrational movements by a man-child who doesn't understand what is going around him because he doesn't think irrationally. People say about his instincts and all that. Yeah, sure. Maybe he has instincts, but let me put it this way. The guy with the vernacular, with the verbiage, which is primarily the, all caps on the, whatever this Truth Social, whatever the hell the name of the social media is. So there are doubts about his mental capacity to lead the country, especially such country in a deep trouble as the United States. So, but we have now even more. If that hasn't been enough, now Narendra Modi, my gosh, what can I say? He comes out and he drops another bombshell on Trump, and he tells Trump there was no US mediation and ceasefire with Pakistan. He tells him that essentially it was achieved in the negotiations between the Pakistani and Indian military. But you remember, Mr. Trump also took the credit for that. Well, when you have literally Prime Minister telling you that, you know what, you have nothing to do with this, and yet, what can I say? It is absolute, it's degeneration. It's the end of the American empire. Now, the only thing which we have to keep in mind and pray for those who have the, faith in God, and for those who don't, like me, I am not atheist, but whatever. Call it however you wish. We have to just pray for the country not to disintegrate, because what we see now, we see the slow disintegration of the country, which I predicted. Not only me, make no mistake, Dmitry Orlov was writing about way before me, and so this has been in the works, so to speak, for the last at least 30 years. But I wrote about it. We are looking at a country which is completely torn, and there is no nation which constitutes this country. The only nation which was this and is this country for now is MAGA. Yes, we know that many of those people are not necessarily very bright, but they are very sincere in their desire to preserve the country, to preserve Constitution, to preserve those liberties and rights which are being assaulted daily by all kinds, primarily from the politicians, and of course corrupt and manipulative media. So what can I say? So once you don't have MAGA, what are you gonna do? Yes, we know he has no support whatsoever, and he is no Vladimir Putin. He has no statesman qualities which would allow him to deal with the very complex reality, and especially extremely complex military reality, because if the United States gets into this war, it's gonna be over. So, and who knows, we might even see the, God forbids, nuclear escalation, and again, Trump, not very bright man, to put it mildly. So now, while at it though, we need to remember again that while we talk about all this, we have this bunch of the cretins in Europeans. Yeah, here's the guy. I don't know what's the deal with the Great Britain, United Kingdom, essentially, and the media. Most of them are morons. I mean, look at Piers Morgan, look at this guy, and look at this. In the Guardian, he writes about that why Europe should hijack NATO for its own purpose. Paul Taylor, as the Trump administration's security focus shifts towards countering China, European governments are living on the borrowed time. Yes, they are, because essentially they are not really representative of people, albeit some are. For example, I'm pretty sure that Mr. Merz speaks for many Germans, for example. British, English people, they have a little bit more complex situation. But the point is, he thinks, oh yeah, we have to go in Ukraine. Sure. Why don't you try to go into Ukraine? I don't know. I mean, it's about time to rearrange stones on some, the NATO bases in Europe. And obviously, United States in no shape whatsoever to interfere anywhere in serious way and to achieve any kind of the political objectives, other than, for example, as I already stated, pardon me, that to die, American boys have to die for Israel. So, if we look at this whole situation, we can see, though, that Russians continue to, hold all kinds of the, St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, all things of this nature. And for those people who forget, there is a special military operation. And look at this. This is today's tally. And you can see yourself, the slaughter continues, and it will continue as long as necessary until Ukraine is no more in its military forces. And so, well, what can I say? This is this is the world we live in, guys, today, and nothing could be changed about it other than wait. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. And I'm trying to, allow people say, oh, you are produce therapeutical effect. I'm not a therapist, okay? So I'm just trying to do my best to make sense out of this complete mayhem, which combined West brought the world to. And Israel is it's the Western world, it's the Western fault. And you saw yourself who and why they elected the fanatics and basically homicidal and suicidal people. I don't think Israel will endure. I could be wrong. But we already know that essentially all Israelis are not allowed to leave the country. And you can take a look at it, and yeah, what can I say? They just not allowed. And Israel becoming another Ukraine? Possible, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. And this is what I wanted to tell you guys today. And as always in the end, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. And that will allow me to stay in this business of, as some people say, being a therapist for many of them. So if I provide this treatment, so to speak, hey, good for you guys, not for me, I mean. And so what can I say? Have a nice rest of the week, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.